Welcome to the Clash of the Dynasties. Tonight, two storied franchises, the Edmonton Oilers and the New York Islanders, battle for the Stanley Cup once again in a one-of-a-kind EA Sports simulation Game 7 matchup featuring the greats from the 1984 Islanders and Oilers legendary hockey teams. Hello, I'm Brendan Burke, the television voice of the New York Islanders on MSG Networks. My partner tonight, Ithaca College distinguished alum and current voice of the Edmonton Oilers, Jack Michaels. Jack, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Brendan. Glad to be here and glad we've got a series. You know, the interesting thing is the 83 and 84 matchups between these two clubs turned into pretty short series. Islanders swept the Oilers in 83, and after Edmonton got a split in Long Island, they were able to close out the Islanders in 84. But in this series, Brendan, not only are we privileged to have a long series, but we're also thankful that we've got some of the great players from that series on both teams right here, right now.
Doesn't get much better than that. So the past meets the present, and one of these teams will get one more chance to hoist the Stanley Cup. Here are the rosters for tonight's game, which is a joint production between the Islanders and the Edmonton Oilers. Just amazing to look at these names. We've limited the rosters to 10 skaters and 2 goalies per team. Both of these rosters just stacked with Hockey Hall of Famers, including both goaltenders, Billy Smith and Grant Fuhr. Looks like with all this firepower should be an epic matchup. But before we drop the puck, we step aside for our national anthem. Now just moments away from our Clash of the Dynasties. Hey, text to bid on exclusive Islanders memorabilia and VIP experiences for this special Clash of the Dynasties auction. Bidding ends on June 9th. It'll be Brian Trottier against Wayne Gretzky in the opening face-off in our Clash of Dynasties, and we are underway. And right off the bat, we're pleased to have our first guest of the broadcast, and that is a 4-time Stanley Cup winner himself, Mr. Islander, Bobby Nystrom. Bobby, thanks so much for taking the time to be with us here today.
It's my pleasure. I'm enjoying this.
All right, well, as we're watching the Islanders and the Oilers from the mid-'80s, just give us your thoughts on what it was like to be playing on this Islanders dynasty and against a burgeoning dynasty in what the Oilers were putting on the ice.
Well, certainly, they had a heck of a hockey team, and so did we. But it was a pretty good matchup from the standpoint of, anytime that we got together, there was some serious competition. But I would have to say that, we came into the league and we kind of matured and, were able to win the first cup. And, Edmonton was just a little bit behind us, but they were building each and every year as we did. And ultimately, they became a very top-notch hockey club.
Bobby, you mentioned you saw the Oilers building every year. Did you get a glimpse of that at all in a forgotten series, really, the 1981 series? You put them away in 6, and, Ken Moore was on the ice. Everyone remembers the goal he scored against the Rangers. You scored a big goal in that Oilers series, too. Did you have a hunch you might see them again?
Oh, yeah, we definitely did. I mean, the fact is that we saw them as really up and coming. I mean, they've got some talent on that hockey club, as we did. Their top line and our top line are, in the Hall of Fame, every one of them. So we definitely saw that. And you know what? Anyone that's got Gretzky on the team and Messier, yeah, they're going to be pretty good.
We're watching, obviously, the EA Sports version, and as you know, Bobby, and Eric's probably told you, a lot of guys bring their game systems on the road. I imagine, though, you and Clark weren't toting the Atari 2600 or ColecoVision on road trips with you.
No, I would have to say we weren't. And I'm going to tell you a secret about Clark, and don't disclose this. I'm not, but in the afternoons when we used to, lay down for a nap, he used to always watch the soaps. And it used to drive me crazy. He watched all my children and said, let's go to sleep already. But he's just a super, super good guy, and he scored some big goals in the 83 series, but, throughout his career.
Don't worry, your secret's safe with us. We won't tell
He'll
the
kill
soul.
me for that.
So we played now more than 6 minutes of game action between two of the highest scoring teams in NHL history, and we're still looking for the first goal of the game, but here's an opportunity and a save from Billy Smith. And, the Islanders and Oilers, there's so much firepower on the ice. And here comes Clark Gillies with another opportunity. And Bobby Nystrom charging up the right side. And look at this. The guy we have with us here on the broadcast, Bobby Nystrom, puts in the rebound. And he gets the first goal of the game. Bobby, I'm glad we had you here to see that.
Well, you know what? That was a great play. I mean, down at the other end, Billy Smith made a couple of real good saves, and then he got a chance to break out, and Clark had a puck on the left-hand side. He hits it right off the post, and it comes right to me, so I'm just able to bury it. Yeah.
Jack, hockey players are awesome, huh? We talk about his goal, and the first thing he does is go back to his goalie and say he made a couple of nice saves on the other end.
You knew he was going to do it. Bobby, it's like the old days, cleaning up after Clark, eh?
That's the truth. Clarky boy, you got some big goals, but that one just a little bit too far on one side, and it bounces right off the post right out to me. So, hey, we'll give him an assist on that one.
Jack kind of brought this up. When you were playing this Oilers team and you're going dynasty against dynasty, did you feel you were part of something special at that point, if you just kind of gained a better perspective historically as you've gotten farther away from those series?
No, I don't think we really thought about that. If it was the Rangers, we followed the Rangers and everything, but, with Edmonton, we just knew that they were a very, very good hockey club. But, you don't think in that way. You're more involved in, the day-to-day and the game-to-game. But we knew that they were an improving hockey club.
For me, your involvement was also, year to year. You and Dennis, people remember the 4 cups and the 19 playoff series in a row. What people kind of tend to gloss over is you had some real heartbreak along the way. 4 times to the semis and not able to break through. Do you think that hardened you and enabled you to go as long as you did with some of the heartbreak you endured?
Well, I would have to say, I just had an interview just a short while ago, and, it's a learning process to win. And, the interesting thing is that Al Arbor, I think, was the person that instilled that into us. But the thing is that there's a certain mentality about the playoffs that's not there during the regular season. And I think that we learned, how to win, and the Oilers learned how to win. And I think that the last series that we played against them before they won the Cup, they learned that they had to do a little bit more, because we beat them 4 straight. And I got to tell you what, that was our, I was so happy for Al there, because he always talked defense. But they learned from that, and they came back hard the next year.
Bobby, you alluded to the fact, you felt like the Oilers learned something from the 83 series. As you're no doubt aware, there's this apocryphal story about the Oilers filing past your dressing room, and there wasn't much celebration. Like, they tell the story of really peering in the room and seeing you guys kind of racked with pain, because they always tell that story, and I'm fascinated by it, but I'm also curious, is it actually true?
Well, hold on, Bobby. Before you answer that question, it looks like you've got yourself another one. It's a 2-0 Islanders lead, and Bobby Nystrom, who's on the broadcast with us, has them both. So a pretty good start for Bobby Nystrom and a pretty good start for the Islanders. All right, Bobby, take us back into the dressing rooms, back in the 80s. Is it true how beat up you guys were after that 83 Stanley Cup?
I have to say, when I scored the goal in 1980, my first thought was, thank God this is over. Really. People don't realize how hard it is to get there, first of all, and then play those series after series. I mean, all you can do is really basically eat, sleep, and play hockey.
Well, Bobby, what a way to end this interview, with you scoring a couple of goals and the Islanders up 2-0 here in the first period. Thanks so much for joining us here on our Clash of the Dynasties. 6:19 left in the first period. It's 2-0 Islanders. We're back with more after this.
As part of the Clash of the Dynasties programming, coming up we have some great Islanders and Oilers content, as well as a chance for you to win prizes by playing EA NHL 20 trivia throughout the game. Also, make sure to download the Fan Face-Off app on the App Store or Google Play so you can compete against other fans for a chance to win more awesome prizes by playing Isles IQ. Make sure to text to bid on exclusive Islanders memorabilia and VIP experiences for the special Clash of the Dynasties auction. Bidding ends on June 9th. All proceeds benefit the Islanders Children Foundation. You can also stay covered while representing your favorite team with an Islanders face covering. Proceeds benefit Feeding America and the Northwell Health Foundation COVID-19 Emergency Fund. We're all missing hockey, so let's see what Islanders and Oilers fans have been up to during this pause.
He shoots. He scores! Nice pass, Johnny!
The Edmonton Oilers Community Foundation invites fans to check out their silent auction from June 11th through June 23rd. Bid on game-worn gear, exclusive memorabilia, and a fan-designed goalie mask signed by Mike Smith. Proceeds support frontline workers and COVID-19 relief in northern Alberta.
I want it now, and I ain't never gonna back down. Rise up, I want it now, I gotta rise up.
Welcome back to our Clash of the Dynasties. Here in the first period, it's the Islanders with a 2-0 lead over the Edmonton Oilers. Need more Belmont Park Arena news in your life? Sign up now to become an Isles Insider and get free access to the latest news, updates, and ticket information. Brendan Burke, Jack Michaels, and now pleased to be joined by the Hockey Hall of Famer, Paul Coffey. And Paul, we're watching this game. It's a throwback to the mid-'80s where you guys met in back-to-back Stanley Cup Finals. When you think back on those series, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Just the Islanders. I mean, they taught us so much. We respected them so much, and we knew that if we were going to be able to compete with them, we had to bring it every single night. They were winners. They were proven champions, and we all talked about it. Myself, Mark, Wayne, Kevin, all our guys on our team. They made us better, and we just enjoyed playing against them.
Paul, I'm not sure any 19-year-old defenseman will have to deal with what you did in the 81 playoffs. If we dial it back a few years, you kind of sealed the end of the Canadiens dynasty and caught the Islanders in full bloom. It's a series that many people forget. You took the Islanders to 6. Give me some idea of what it was like, age 19, facing that kind of quality personnel.
Well, first of all, playing the great Montreal Canadiens, our first playoff series in 81, we thought we had no chance of winning that series. We went in loose. Young Andy Moog came in, net played great, and the rest is history on that. And then we faced the Islanders, and we were playing on borrowed time. There was zero pressure on us, and we just kind of let it all hang out. But it was that series there that we saw what it was really going to take to win. In the previous year, losing to LA, and then the previous year after that, losing 4 straight to the Islanders. But to me, that wasn't a 4 straight series. We played well. We weren't good enough to win. We weren't ready yet. And then the next year is what it was.
You say that, Paul. Did you almost want to face the Islanders again in 84 after getting swept in 83? Was there some sort of poetic justice to say, hey, not only do we want to win a Stanley Cup, we want to beat those guys?
Yes, I mean, as I mentioned earlier, and it's not made up or a cliche or anything. We had so much respect for those guys, and we wanted to be like them. And I know in '83 when they beat us 4 straight, we were sitting in the dressing room after the game, and Wayne had just come off I don't know what his stats were in '83, but maybe a 200-point season, and he was just really down. And I said, what's going on? Let's go. Let's get out of here. We'll be back next year. And he says, no. He says, I'll never be a great. And the 2 guys' names he mentioned were Brian Trottier and Guy Lafleur if I didn't win a championship. And I knew from that day on, if our best player, our leader, would not take anything but a championship, we were in good hands. And of course, we wanted to play them the next year. And of course, I really feel, I mean, Trotz, I still talk to him and Gillies, and these guys are great guys. I still feel probably deep down that if they were going to lose, they wanted to lose to us.
Closing in on the end of the first period here, it's already a 2-0 Islanders lead in Game 7. Bobby Nystrom has both goals, and here is Nystrom in over the line, buying himself a little bit of time. Back out top, Potvin over. Kenny Morrow has made it 3-0 Islanders as the Isles continue to roll here in the first period.
And you were in an era, it was lasted 2 years with the 2-3-2, and I have a hunch you guys got on that plane going home thinking, we don't need to come back to Long Island. We're not interested in that.
Well, we didn't want to go back. I mean, Long Island is a beautiful sports town, sports area. The fans were incredible. And once the Islanders got you in their rink, they pretty much got you where they wanted to. I think we won the first game 1-0 and lost the next one, I think 5 or 6-1. But, the other guy we haven't mentioned, 2 other guys, of course, Billy Smith in net, and Dennis Potvin on the point, a great defenseman. But winning that first game in 84, 1-0. But the turning point for me, confident-wise as a team, and you'd have to find it somewhere on the tape, is Dennis was going into the corner, his left corner, and he locked horns with Mess, and they just hit like boom, like battling rams, and Potvin fell. And it just gave us unbelievable confidence on the bench that we can beat these guys. We're as strong as them. We're as tough as them. But that was the beauty of our team. We were deep. We had a lot of depth.
All right, Islanders with a 3-0 lead after 1 period. We'll be back with more in the intermission here on the Clash of the Dynasties.
Fans, Miriam Jubel here, welcoming you to the first intermission brought to you by Optimum Business. It's time for the EA Sports Clash of the Dynasties trivia, where you will have a chance to win a copy of EA NHL 20 for an Xbox system. In a moment, a question will appear across your screen, and all you have to do is tweet or comment with your answer using hashtag Clash of the Dynasties to enter. Which rookie had more points in the 1984 playoffs? Is it A, Pat LaFontaine, or B, Patrick Flatley? Make sure to keep tuning in because you'll have 2 more chances to try your luck later in the game. Fans, many of you submitted questions for our alumni. Here's one from Sam Levine. Who was your favorite player when you were growing up?
You know, it's so funny because I'm not a Montreal fan, but for some reason, Boom Boom Geoffrion was a guy that I watched on TV, and he had a great shot, and he was a right winger, and so that's how I ended up with wearing number 5 a lot of my youth. And then when I came down to New York, Denny wanted number 5. And so I gave him that, and I got a number 23, which adds up to 5. So 5 has always been a lucky number for me.
Welcome back. Time for the start of the second period here in our Clash of the Dynasties. Islanders with a 3-0 lead after the first period. And to get you caught up, some personnel changes here in the second period. The Islanders now with Butch Goring, John Tonelli, and Pat Flatley on the ice. Stefan Pearson, Dave Langevin on defense, still in front of Billy Smith. On the Oilers side, Ken Linsman, Glenn Anderson, Mark Messier up front, Lee Fogelin, and our guest right now joining us, Kevin Lowe on defense. Kevin, good to have you. Good to see you back on the ice.
Oh, it's great to be a part of this. And something that sounds familiar for a long time was the Islanders up 3-0 on us. But hopefully we can redeem ourselves here.
Well, you talk about that, and you reference, the sweep in '83. You come back and get your Stanley Cup championship against them in 1984. When you look back at those two series, and you want to throw '81 in as well, what's the first thing that comes to mind when you think about battling the Islanders?
Well, they taught us a lot. We were in awe, at least I was, of them. They were a perfect team. They had everything. And after we lost in '83, boy, we're not sure that we could beat that team, but I think we're fortunate. They were a little beat up, and we got a few breaks, and the rest is history. I'm sure the Islanders, they had to go through the same thing at the start of their domination, and you have to, in order to learn how to win, you have to experience it, and we're fortunate to be the Islanders.
Kevin, in terms of looking at these the 84 final and then 85, it was the only 2 years in the history of the National Hockey League they went 2-3-2. And the Oilers took advantage of it. They went 6-0 in those home games. How important in retrospect was getting that first split on Long Island and feeling like you didn't necessarily have to go back there if you took care of business?
Massive, Jack. That building was a tough building to play in. And how ironic is it for the Oilers? Perhaps our biggest win in our history is a 1-0 win. We weren't winning too many games 1-0, and of course they took it to us in game 2. So, I think the way the series went back then, 2-3-2, played in our favor. It would have been tough going back into the island and trying to win a game because we hadn't won there much. But I think the 2-3-2 did play in our favor at that particular time.
Kevin, you were part of all 5 of those Stanley Cup championship teams with the Oilers, one of 7 players to be on all 5 of them. Not to take anything away from that dynasty, but the Islanders had won 4 in a row. Do you have an appreciation now for how hard it was for what the Canadians did, what the Islanders did to win those multiple ones?
Yeah, no question. I think, to me, we ran up against a very good team in our division in the Calgary Flames that stopped our run. Pretty well documented. I mean, it was a 7-game series, lost in game 7. We're pretty close. But I think we learned a lesson from that. As good as the Flames were, I think a lot of that loss was our fault, that we weren't quite as sharp as we had been in previous series. And those are some of the lessons we had along the way about learning how to win and I've said this often, it's not the best talent that wins. It's, obviously you need to have talent, but the teams that play are most committed to a system, most committed to the overall victory. And if you take your foot off the gas a little bit in the Stanley Cup playoffs, it opens up the door for the opposition. So, the Islanders were perfection for a lot of years, as were the Montreal Canadiens. We're close to perfection, but having learned those lessons in losing, I think kept us hungry for a lot of years after and allowed us to win 5 and 7.
Mark Messier wins a faceoff in his own zone and comes down with Anderson, takes a drive and scores! What a feed from Anderson! And the Moose buries it to get Edmonton right back in this game. And Kevin, the captain, you've seen him do that so often during your Oiler career.
All right, Kevin, I want to ask you about that clinching game. The Oilers up 4-0 after 2, and you and your teammates are feeling pretty good heading out for the third period.
Myself personally and my partner Lee Fogland had a really good game. We had defended really well, and actually that whole series 5-on-5, I'm not sure we had given up a goal against as a pairing. So we were feeling, sky high, and then all of a sudden we step on the ice for the start of the third period, and within 30 seconds, Pat LaFontaine and Flatley, get together on 2 goals. And prior to that, the first 2 periods, I wanted on the ice every shift because I was feeling really good. And with the lead, they weren't going to score. And then all of a sudden, getting scored against 2 goals in 1 shift in 35 seconds, I didn't want to go back on the ice in the third period because I thought I was going to jinx the team. So it's amazing how your mindset, your emotions and your confidence in sports at that level can fluctuate in that matter, like going from sky high to I don't even want to be on the ice. But luckily, when Dave Blumley finally got the 5th goal, we all could breathe a sigh of relief and know that we're actually going to hoist the cup.
Well, Kevin, you got the job done. Thank you so much for sharing some of your memories with us about those epic series between the Islanders and the Oilers.
That's my pleasure. Great memories, and the Stanley Cup playoffs is the best, and we're fortunate to be a part of it for a long time.
All right, we've got more to come. Stay with us on our Clash of the Dynasties between the Oilers and the Islanders.
Remember to text a bid on exclusive Islanders memorabilia and VIP experiences for this special Clash of the Dynasties auction. Bidding ends June 9th. In support of Feeding America and the Northwell Health Foundation COVID-19 Emergency Fund, stay covered and represent your favorite team with an Islanders face covering. Fans, it's time for the puck shuffle. Keep your eye on the puck and guess where it ends up. Do you know where the puck is? You gotta be quick. Do you have your eye on the puck? Here we go, almost time. Let's take a look. If you guessed number 1, you're right. The Edmonton Oilers Community Foundation invites fans to check out their silent auction starting on June 11th. To bid on game-worn gear and exclusive memorabilia, visit edmontonoilers.com/auction.
Proper suction is the key to getting great-looking haircuts with no cleanup.
Welcome back here on our Clash of the Dynasties second period action. A 3-1 lead for the Islanders, but it's Mark Messier's goal for the Oilers that has brought them back into this one. Remember to sign up now to become an Isles insider and get free access to the latest on Belmont Park Arena. Brendan Burke, Jack Michaels, and the Hall of Fame broadcaster, longtime voice of the New York Islanders joining us now, Jiggs McDonald, who actually called these series. Jiggs, for the people that are watching that weren't born when this was actually happening, and for the people that are talking to you that weren't born when this was happening, what was it like to actually witness these two teams play each other?
Brendan, these two teams were as evenly matched. You talk about talent, position by position, whether it was goaltending, defense. The Yari Curry, Wayne Gretzky combination equal to Trottier Bossy combination. You could go down the second, third line. They were really evenly matched. Great round of playoff hockey.
Jiggsy, I know Brendan and I, when we discuss you, we talk about kind of the Mike Bossy of broadcasting. Talk about retiring at your absolute peak. That's another conversation for another time. But I wanted to ask you about an often forgotten series, the 1981 clash between these two clubs. Islanders 1-6. Kenny Morrow scored a big goal. Everyone remembers the Rangers goal. He scored an OT winner against Edmonton that kind of kept the Oilers at bay. Did you have a hunch you might see the Oilers again?
A given. You could see the way they were meshing, the way the young talent reminded you a little bit of the Islanders 78, 79 when they were knocked out before they got that missing part being Goring, of course. But yeah, you could see that this was a team of the future.
Jiggsy, right now the Islanders have a 3-1 lead, but the Oilers pressing. Billy Smith, a guy known for making some big saves, is under duress here as Edmonton pressures. I think the Rat just finished one off, and we're back in business. Oilers have cut it to 3-2, and Kenny Lindstrom was a big factor in 84, Jiggsy. What else, about that series I wanted to ask you about, and it was a strange 2-year overlay where the NHL went 2-3-2 in 84 and 85, and the Oilers won all 6 at home. And I'm curious, when you recall that 84 series, the split in Long Island, I think in that series favored Edmonton. They were able to close it out.
No question, Jack. Downtown Edmonton hated the New York Islanders. In fact, they moved out of the hotel out into the suburbs because they wouldn't cut off the phones at night. People were keeping the players up all hours. Billy Smith, front page of the Edmonton Sun. Public enemy number 1 with a bullseye, a target over his face. Yeah, it was something else, Jack. It just amazing. You look back, 3-0 Islanders in this game. I've always maintained that's the worst lead in hockey. Teams have a tendency to let down. Oh, this is going to be easy. You turn it off, you can't turn it on again.
Well, it's game 7 too. So they better not be turning it off here in the second period. They got a long way to go, and we're closing in here on the end of the second. Jiggs, just when you look back, are there any moments that stick out to you? Just when you're talking about a lot of games here between two incredible teams. Is there anything that just pops to your mind?
Yeah, I think the run-in with Fuhr, the goaltending. The Islanders didn't get the goaltending. They didn't get the production out of Mike Bossy that you would expect. And like I said earlier, the Yari Curry Wayne Gretzky combination was just coming into its own. Man, there was no way you could throw a blanket over them. They were dominant. Then you look at what the Rat did, and if you were going to interview Kenny after the game, you better have 10 questions to get 15 seconds of interview time.
Oilers and Islanders, and Edmonton making a game of it. And Jiggsy, just a thought on this turning out to be the third of 3 consecutive pancake dynasties. Are we ever going to see anything like that again?
I don't think so, Jack. No, not with free agency, not with the money that's being thrown around, the dedication. No, I don't think it'll happen again.
Oh, we've got a tie game. Jiggsy, you said it. 3-0 lead, the worst in hockey.
And the Rat. The Rat again.
He bangs in a second. And these guys don't even know that 30 years later, the Flyers are going to do it to the Bruins. That's the great thing about esports. They're oblivious.
Oh, well said, Jack.
Well, what a period for Ken Lindsman. Is the Islanders' 3-0 lead is gone, and he's got the last two, both I think in the last 5 minutes of the second period. So not only do we have a Game 7 here, but we've got a tie game. Jiggs, your luck not so great for the Islanders by joining us here, but We appreciate your time, and thanks for reliving some of those glory days with us.
My pleasure, Brendan. Always good to see you. Jack as well. Enjoyed this, guys.
We miss you tons, pal.
Thank you.
Perfect, Jiggs. Yeah, keep growing the beard. We love it. Game 7, 3-3 score. Islanders and Oilers. Our third period is coming up next here on our Clash of the Dynasties.
We're back for the second intermission presented by MassPIP Federal Savings Bank. It's time for the second Clash of the Dynasties trivia question, brought to you by EA Sports. Remember to tweet or comment with your answer using hashtag Clash of the Dynasties for a chance to win an Xbox copy of EA NHL 20. Which Islander led the team in points in the 1984 playoffs? Was it A, Brian Trottier, or B, Clark Gillies? Keep tuning in because there's one more question in the third period, which means you have one last chance to win.
I'm not a big fan of heights. Yeah, I'm scared of heights. I don't really like it that much.
I don't like heights. Like sometimes when we're at that one hotel where like it's hollow in the middle and the rails are around, it's like...
I'm not a big fan of heights, so I don't do roller coasters or...
I'm always like, yeah, let's go on a roller coaster, and then I'm up there and I'm terrified, and then it ends and I want to go on it again.
I bought a pet snake the year I moved away from home, and they told me it would only live for a couple years and get to like a foot long. Well, now it's 5.5 feet.
I don't like snakes.
Scared of snakes.
I hate snakes.
I'm scared of snakes. I wouldn't even come close to a snake. I hate it. I would never touch one, I think. I'm really scared of snakes.
Just the way they move creeps me out. The tongue comes out, they like swiggle. It's creepy. I'm getting like goosebumps talking about it.
Start of the third period here in our Clash of the Dynasties, Islanders and Oilers. And our impressive lineup of guests continues as we are so happy to welcome in broadcaster, writer, author, historian, professor. I'm sure I missed something. Stan Fischler joining us all the way from Israel. Stan, thanks for being a part of this.
Oh, pleasure for me.
You know, you're someone who can go back in your memory and recite things from, I don't know, the 30s and 40s of the National Hockey League. We're just asking you to go back to the mid-'80s and talk about these meetings between the Islanders and the Oilers. I'm sure you've got some great memories from those series.
Well, it's the kind of series where a Hollywood scriptwriter would put something on it. You have one team that played fire wagon hockey, which was the Oilers, and you had the Islanders playing textbook hockey. You had Gretzky versus Bossy. You had Trottier versus Messier. It was classic. It was one of a kind, and I was absolutely thrilled to be a part of it, both in '83 and '84.
Stan, we talk about the Hall of Famers that are on the ice in this game, but what about the guys behind the bench in Al Arbour and Glenn Sather and their impact on this series?
Well, you got two contrasting guys. You have somebody like Sather, who was a brilliant hockey man, great mind, but he had a very zany turn to his behavior, particularly behind the bench, and it was perfect for the guys he had on his team. Al Arbour, much more studious, very, very well respected, and obviously his record speaks for itself. I mean, 19 consecutive playoff series win. No team is ever going to match that. So you got two brilliant guys, and when you look at it, they both come out even.
Stan, you know, as a historian of the NHL, you'd know that, you know, in the 100-year history of the league, there were 2 years that the NHL went 2-3-2 in the finals, and they happened to be the Oilers' back-to-back cups in '84 and '85. For a young team, what did the luxury of getting a split on the road and then having 3 sitting for you at home do for them?
Well, you couldn't arrange it better. It was just a terrific thing for the Oilers. But, you know, Shakespeare once said there's much virtue in if, and Islander fans and myself have if till the cows come home on whether it had been a regular setup. Who knows? But It happened, and we ain't going to change it.
Stan, the Oilers turned out to be the third of kind of a trio of pancake dynasties. You saw them eliminate the Canadiens in '81, and that kind of put Montreal's reign officially to rest. The Islanders in the middle of one, and the Oilers were coming. Did you see them coming?
The Oilers were scary way back. Yeah, I mean, let's face it, I covered the WHA when Gretzky came in with Indianapolis. I mean, you get guys like Gretzky and Messier, and let me tell you, Coffey, but the guy who's forgotten, who was the bedrock of the defense, Kevin Lowe. He was a tremendous hockey player. So you have to look at around 81. At any time from 81 on, Edmonton could have won the Cup. No question about it. I mean, this was, and you can't overlook Glenn Sather's coaching. He was the perfect character for a team of characters. It was just wonderful.
It's perfect. Perfect way to close this segment out. The Maven, Stan Fischler, thank you so much for joining us all the way from Israel to talk about what these epic series were like back in '83 and '84. Thanks, Stan.
This was epic fun.
Well, our Game 7 coverage continues here on our Clash of the Dynasties with the Islanders and Oilers tied at 3 here in the third period. As what a collection of talent we've had on the broadcast, including the Maven, Stan Fischler, and what a collection of talent there is on the ice with 12 Hall of Famers between these two teams. Look at this. It's Dave Semenko putting one past Billy Smith, and all of a sudden the Oilers have a 4-3 lead. It's 4 consecutive goals for Edmonton as they're in front for the first time today.
Help support a great cause by bidding on exclusive Isles memorabilia and VIP experiences in the Clash of the Dynasties silent auction. Remember, proceeds benefit the Islanders Children's Foundation. And remember to stay covered while representing your favorite team with an Islanders face covering. These coverings are available in 3 styles and are sold as a 3-pack. Proceeds benefit Feeding America and the Northwell Health Foundation COVID-19 Emergency Fund. Fans, here's your final trivia question. In the 1984 playoffs, how long was the series between the Islanders and the Canadiens? Is it A, 6 games or B, 7 games? Remember to tweet or comment with your answer using hashtag Clash of the Dynasties for a chance to win an Xbox copy of EA NHL 20. The Edmonton Oilers silent auction will be open from June 11th through June 23rd. Bid on game-worn gear and exclusive memorabilia. Proceeds support the frontline workers and COVID-19 relief in Northern Alberta. Fans, we're back with the answers to the EA NHL 20 trivia questions. The Islander that led the team in points in the 1984 playoffs was B. Clark Gillies. Question 2. The rookie who had more points in the 1984 playoffs was B. Patrick Flatley. And finally, question 3. In the 1984 playoffs, the series between the Islanders and the Canadiens lasted A, 6 games. Isles winning that series 4-2. Congratulations to our lucky winners. I hope you have fun with your copy of EA NHL 20.
Welcome back to our Clash of the Dynasties. All of a sudden, it's the Edmonton Oilers with a 4-3 lead as Dave Semenko has put them on top for the first time in this hockey game. Want the latest on Belmont Park Arena? Make sure to sign up to become an Isles Insider and get free access to updates, news, and ticket information. And because he gets the period off on the ice, we're happy to have John Tonelli with us here in our virtual broadcast booth. John, thanks for taking some time and reliving some of the glory days with us here today.
Thanks for having me. I get a little break. I get the period off.
Yeah, your team blew a 3-0 lead. Sorry to tell you in that second period when you were on the ice. I don't think any of the goals were your fault, though.
No minuses?
No.
John, your first season on the island, of course, was 79, and it was another great regular season for New York, but a playoff stumble at the hands of the New York Rangers. The fourth time in 5 years they lost in the semis. And then, we talked with Bobby Nystrom earlier, and he was a bit surprised they kept everyone together. In your mind, what was kind of the trigger point in that 79 and 80 season where, the Islanders didn't have as good a regular season?
Yeah, it was a pretty tough pill to swallow, that loss against the Rangers. We thought we were the better team, and we thought just by having a great regular season that it would roll right into the playoffs. But I think you hear this a lot from championship teams who get a chance to win, is you have to learn. You have to learn how to win from losing. And, and that's what we were able to do the following season.
I'm glad he didn't take the easy answer and just say it was all Butch Goring.
And if I can make a remark on that, as Bobby said, they didn't change the whole team. They didn't make a lot of changes. But did they need one at the end of the day? Yeah, they did. And they found it in Butch Goring. So, kudos to our GM for finding that piece and making our team that much better.
You faced the Oilers as an Islander. You faced them as the Calgary Flames, as we talked about. But you also were an LA King, and you would later play with Wayne Gretzky. What kind of conversations did you and Wayne have about these series between the Oilers and the Islanders?
Well, that was, for me, first of all, that was such a privilege to play with Wayne and to go there, to go to LA the same year that he did. And to watch how he dramatically changed the spectrum in Los Angeles and turn that into a great hockey town. Playing with Wayne, you just want to focus and do the best you can on the ice, because everything off the ice he takes care of. They all want to talk to Wayne, and I totally get it, totally understand. But I was so proud of the way he handled things, and it's probably one of the toughest things in his life he had to do was leave Edmonton and come to LA.
John, we had Kevin Lowe and Paul Coffey on earlier in the broadcast, and obviously you own the corners. You got any good stories about meeting those guys in the corners?
Oh boy. Well, first of all, you had to catch Paul Coffey. If you didn't catch him in his end when he just got started, forget about it. He'd be in your end creating offensive plays. And then you look at Kevin. Kevin, very smart, intelligent, a lot of composure, and he was always hard to forecheck too, because he would make that first pass. I mean, you'd be going in there as hard as you could, and if he got that first pass by you, then they're out of their zone. So, and I would think that Kevin, because of his composure, was a real stabilizer for that team. Real one of their best leaders, and in times of pressure, probably created a lot of stabilization with that team.
So we're closing in here on the final minute of the third period with the Oilers up by 1, and we're talking with John Tonelli about some of his memories. Oh, look at this. Stuffed in. And so right on cue is Bobby Nystrom tying the game. John, you could have predicted that,
right? Bobby Nye. When did he play his best? In overtime. Unbelievable.
Well, it's almost fitting that we have you and we have Bobby Nystrom, and we have a game that looks like it's headed to overtime, just because no Islander fan could get enough of it. Take us through the Tonelli to Nystrom and your thought process and your point of view. So,
that play was a play that we executed in practice over and over and over. I mean, it was. We got so tired of doing that drill, but what happened was it actually happened in overtime, where there was a gap in the neutral zone, and Bobby Nye and I crisscrossed, and we were able to pause one of the Flyers defensemen for a quick second, and which gave us enough time to make a decision whether I could shoot or make the pass, and the best play there was the pass.
John, if I may say so, I grew up in Pittsburgh, so my favorite team as a little boy was anyone who beat Philly. So the Islanders and the Oilers were always at the top of my list.
I can understand that, Jack.
Well, John, it looks like this game's getting to overtime. We're getting word from Al Arbor, though. You're getting on the ice in overtime, so we're looking for you maybe for a little magic there.
Awesome. I'm ready to go.
All right, John, thanks so much for spending some time with us and sharing some thoughts, and we appreciate you reliving some of the glory days.
All right, guys, take care.
So the Islanders get the late goal to tie it at 4 and force overtime. We'll be back with the extra session in our Clash of the Dynasties in just a moment. Welcome back to the start of overtime here in Game 7 in our Clash of the Dynasties. The Islanders with a late goal to force overtime. But before we drop the puck here in the extra session, let's take a look back at how we got here. Puck is about to drop. Brendan Burke and Jack Michaels here. And let's welcome back in Hall of Fame broadcaster Jiggs McDonald for overtime. And Jiggs, it's almost hard to imagine the intensity level of Game 7 of a Stanley Cup Final now entering overtime.
Indeed. From the Islanders standpoint, you better get Tonelli and Trache out there, Nystrom too, shift after shift.
Jiggs, you might be right, but hard to second-guess Al Arbor at this point. He's gone back to his matchup for the second period, and that means a line of Butch Goring, Pat Flatley, and John Tonelli.
You know, you've been in this situation before. You mentioned 78 early, Game 7. I remember just the tension, palpable Islanders-Leafs. It didn't go your way in that particular circumstance.
No, you just never know. I mean, the matchup, and I mean, Slats has got last call on who he wants on the ice. This is difficult.
Okay, a couple minutes gone here in overtime. Islanders and Oilers tied at 4. Butch Goring, you see mixing it up there in front of the net with Grant Fuhr. And, you know, Jiggs, you weren't there for the Stanley Cup clincher in 1980, but when you look back, give us your favorite overtime playoff memory.
I guess it would be 82, the series against Pittsburgh, a best-of-5 series. They dominated the first couple of games, and then all of a sudden find themselves in a situation where they're down by 2, get it tied up, go to overtime, and in overtime, I mean, the dynasty just about didn't exist. Pittsburgh had a great scoring chance. The Islanders come back, Tonelli, right place, right time. It was as tense in overtime as I've ever seen.
An often forgotten series, Jiggsy, and it shouldn't be, because I believe that's the only time during the 4 Cup that the Islanders faced elimination, and that was also pre-Lemieux, so no one knew who Pittsburgh was.
Well, good point. Yeah, the Islanders seem to have a domination of Pittsburgh when you go way back and add that one and add the 93 series as well. There's a history between Pittsburgh and the Islanders, certainly.
We've got 3 minutes gone here in overtime. It's obviously sudden death here and everybody on pins and needles to find out how this game will end as we're chatting here with Jiggs McDonald, the legendary Hall of Fame broadcaster of the Islanders. And you've got so much firepower on the ice. Jiggs, did you know how special this was at the time, or did you get a better perspective as, you know, the years went on?
As the years went on, we knew it was a great series, well-matched teams. But yeah, as the years go on, it's a little easier to live in the past and say, oh yeah, this guy was so good. You didn't recognize perhaps at the time, but as the years continue to tick off, you say, boy, those two teams, each one of them, so well balanced.
Well, just about 5 minutes gone here in overtime, and Billy Smith with a nice stop to keep the Islanders' chances alive. And This is John Tonelli the other way. Back up the ice, over the line. Tonelli with a good look and a blocker saved by Fuhrer.
Keep your head on a swivel, boys. Guy wide open there, huh?
Grant Fuhrer, Billy Smith, a couple of big saves for each of them. And with these clutch goalies, hey, we may have a couple of overtimes to watch today.
That'll take you to the Hall of Fame at either end of the ice, won't it, Smitty and Grant?
You know, statistics do not tell the measure of those goaltenders. Not within a 30-year blast. It's not the same game, Jiggsy, and people forget how clutch these guys were.
Exactly, man on man. The physicality, you go back to some of the fighting in the series, the high sticking, the slashing, just, battling Billy and Wayne's knee, things happen in the course of a game. The intensity level,
Why do you think Semenko's on his line?
Sammy will get it done.
Well, John Tonelli picks off the pass here in overtime and carries it into the Oilers' end. Looking for the middle, it's Butch Goring. The rebound, he scores! Butch Goring clinching the Stanley Cup for the New York Islanders. Jiggs, it's your good friend, the 1981 Conn Smythe Trophy winner, Butch Goring, with the game winner.
I was there the day he showed up at training camp with the Los Angeles Kings. Never thought I would see him score a Stanley Cup winning goal, ever.
Well, not with the Kings, that's for sure.
No. And Butchie will make sure I pay a price for having said that, too.
Butchie cleaning it up in the dirty areas, as he would say, and he gets the salute for scoring the game-winning goal of our EA Sports Clash of the Dynasties. And Jiggs, it's been a blast. Another great moment to witness, another classic Islanders playoff moment, and a fifth Stanley Cup for the trophy case as well. Let's go down to the ice for the presentation of the Stanley Cup. Well, what an exciting game that was, and so much fun to see these dynasties back on the ice and playing once again, even if it was just the EA Sports version of them. And how great to have all of our guests share their stories from back in the 1980s. Big thanks goes out to both John Tonelli and Bobby Nystrom for the New York Islanders, Kevin Lowe and Paul Coffey from the Oilers, and broadcasting legends Jiggs McDonald and the Maven, Stan Fischler. Thanks to the New York Islanders and Edmonton Oilers for their work on producing this broadcast. For my partner, Jack Michaels, I'm Brendan Burke. Thank you all so much for watching, and hopefully before too long, we've got the real Islanders and Oilers back out on the ice.